Hi, Sterling Allen here at the Breakthrough Energy Movement 2012 conference in Hilversum, Holland. I am talking to Mark Dansie, who
wearing the Dutch colors.
Yes. He's one of the speakers here at this conference, and he has two working technologies that he wants to demonstrate. One's exotic, one's not exotic, and will help finance the development of the exotic technology. He is with Infinergy, a company out of Salt Lake City, Utah. This is the first time I get to say this publicly. The name Infinergy, isn't that a cool name? That's the name of their company. They've got an awesome facility. I've been in it several times there in Salt Lake City. And Mark, tell us about what you got here.
Well, I came to the conference, Sterling, and they asked me could I bring something along that could perhaps demonstrate energy from the ambient. So it's not our Infinergy project, but we're working, assisting the company through our lab to do that. And this is this little, it's not a metal, this little disc. And this disc here is a material that once created continually gathers electrons from the environment, if you like, or from the ambient. And if you look at the voltage there, it's just crept up, and I'll short it out to start again. I've just shorted it out to 0, and you can see immediately it starts climbing again. And that will do that for the life of the material, which is indefinite. And unfortunately I'm not allowed to describe the processes because it's subject to some patent applications and commercial operations, but I can tell you a little bit about its performance.
Go ahead.
It's not a battery. It works better when it gets colder. So the colder this gets, the more power it produces, which batteries don't. They work in reverse. It has got no chemical reaction. It's not a voltaic reaction. And as you can see, like I did before, I can short it out. The electrons can be harvested, and it will then recover. And we believe that the electrons are coming from the ambient and gathering on the surface or perhaps from within, and it's definitely not being generated inside. So the other interesting things is it works in a vacuum and it works in a Faraday's cage. And the company that's developing this has gradually, progressively increased the power, the stability. At the present it can run stable voltage, put out stable power, and as funding becomes available and they're able to look at more processes, better ways of manufacturing, using different techniques, I think this is something that's going to have a big impact in the future. You know, where we like to be is perhaps in a few years or near future, powering cell phones, initially powering low power devices, but we don't know how far it can go. We don't know the rate, what the limits are of the rate. They came up from picoamps to nanoamps to microamps. The next aim is to get into milliamps. And when you're there, you can virtually power anything, but we don't know the limits of it. They've worked on the stability, and it's been signed off by some pretty serious scientists. So I brought that along because...
But let's talk a little bit more about that sign off.
We've had several physicists and scientists come in, test it. They've had third-party validation. I can't talk about those people involved, but there's a lot of commercial and confidence. But I can assure you... I should
mention that I've seen the names, at least some of the earlier names.
You've seen the names.
Very impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. At this stage, I've got to respect the owners of the technology, that their wishes that, because of the ongoing negotiations, they don't wish that to be public now.
And this is the first time also that we're able to look at this stuff publicly. They've not let us in the past take photos or any images of this. So this is history in the making right now. I should mention that this is the technology we've had listed in our top 5 and runners-up for a couple of years now.
That's true. However, I'm very limited, and they entrusted me. They said, yes, you can demonstrate this, you can talk about some performance criteria. You can see it's crept up in voltage again. I'll short it out. And that can be done month after month, year in and year out, and it'll just continue to recover. And you can see it climbing now.
One of the things they're talking about doing is printing this on a circuit board so you have power at the point of use.
Yes, that's exactly right. It will initially appear in low power devices and then gradually work up. It could be in a manifestation eventually where stage one might be this material with a rechargeable battery for your cell phone or your camera. And then eventually the aim is, if it's possible, just replace the battery altogether and you'll be drawing from this. But this is the first time, and you put me onto this trail, Sterling, and I remember rolling up and I didn't leave for 4 months. And I thought, this is real, and I've only got a minor role. I haven't got any interest in this, apart from we share some facilities and assist them with their project, but we're joint ventures on other things. We're working in several technologies. And the lab that you mentioned was started as an incubator lab to bring some of these technologies to the fore and give inventors and other people an opportunity to come in. However, we're like everybody else, we limited resources. We don't want to rely on government or necessary venture capitalists. So that leads me to the other product or device, and this is something we will be releasing early next year, and it's not free energy, but we're applying some existing technologies to a market to bring a bit of a paradigm shift. Now, I did have a really slick, nice little model that I could have shown you pouring a bit of water in, but unfortunately the authorities in America took it out of my suitcase on transit for whatever reason. It must have looked pretty sinister when they, wow, what's inside this, buddy? I don't know where it went. All I know is I got my little note in saying your baggage has been inspected and something was missing. This here.
So really quick, if I could mention, this is a water flashlight technology.
Yes.
It's a battery technology where the electrode's being consumed over time. The anode's consumed. Yeah.
And what we're doing with the anode, if you've got an anode the size of, say, 2 AA batteries, it's going to be low cost. We'll probably retail for a couple of dollars.
The anode, the replacement anode.
But it will run it for several hundred hours. Like if you turn it on, it will. This one, by the way, is a very early cell. The cathode's done thousands of hours. We can get a lot more power. But we're a little bit commercial in confidence at this stage, so they said, okay, you can show this, but you don't want to show them our designs that are being developed now, because we're not protecting this. And when we hit the market, everybody will copy it, and we're fine with that. We just want to do this sort of thing to generate some funds, because the research in this project or several others we've got on our books costs a lot of money for equipment. You know, you want to go buy equipment runs into the hundreds of thousands. You want to be able to pay people. But it's just checking that it's still climbing. It is.
Yeah, this flashlight technology will be huge, because anyone wants a flashlight. You don't have to keep recharging the battery. You go to any kind of emergency, any kind of situation, even camping.
Well, my daughters, for instance, every time we go camping in Australia, we're not near a battery shop, and it's, Dad, my flashlight's flat. Well, didn't you put batteries in it yesterday? Oh, I think I left it on all night. So this, you can actually take, we're going to do a small round one, you know, the one you put C cells in, and you put the anode in, and it can run for hundreds of hours of run time. It will require a little bit of maintenance. You might have to tip the water out every few days and put some fresh water, and depending on how often you use it is the anode, but you should get several hundred hours with an anode. An anode is worth many, many batteries, 50 batteries, 25, 100, and that saves the environment. And the byproduct the anode does dissolve is environmentally friendly. You can drink it, but I wouldn't, but it enhances the soil. If you tip it out, it's not a problem.
Now, the water in this thing is kind of the activator. It's the context that it works in. you're going to have an independent switch, so you don't have to turn it on and off by pouring water in and out, right?
No, it's just like this. We turn it on and off, but we've got a slightly bigger model that you'll be able to put an attachment on, and it will then be able to recharge your iPhone. I charge my Kindle up on it actually, or your camera, or your GPS, and out of one anode you probably get about 20 recharges. If you put a conventional normal alkaline batteries, it'd flatten them after one charge. As you know, an iPhone, you have 2 or 3 AAA batteries, it'll kill it, 1 or 2 charges. We'll get about 20 charges out of it, which is pretty convenient if you're in the middle of the bush.
Or in the middle of a hurricane, and thereafter.
And but the reaction we had from this was very positive with a bit of a market survey, and we started off as a little baby project, and I think you pointed out to me, you're going to release this a couple of months ago. We suddenly realised, ooh, we got a tiger by the tail, and we had to get a lot more serious people involved. We're not into consumer products, so we're babes in the woods, and we suddenly realised we had to gear up for a bigger production. So it'd be produced in the US, it'd be produced in Asia, we're not sure where. We've got some distribution networks set up in the US and Australia, but we're looking for partners to distribute in the rest of the world. I'll short that one out for you again, Sterling. I love shorting this out. There we go, we're back to 0. And off she goes again.
Yeah.
So this is not related to this in any shape or form. This is just...
Other than being neighbours.
Yeah. I guess that's the case. So all this is existing technology used in different... But there's a lot of enabling technology here that wasn't available. Like the cathode we're using just come out of a 5-year embargo because somebody had an exclusive on it. And we've played around, we've seen other devices that attempt the same, and we've tried to perfect it. We've done thousands of hours of testing. We're confident with the technology, the reliability. There's no electronics in the base model, but for the charger model we have to put some electronics in to manage the power. So
I want to do a little tangent note here, talking about my friend. My wife says that Mark Dansie is my frenemy.
Yeah. We need a marriage counselor.
Yeah, you know, we've had a relationship since about 2005, since New Energy Congress, and we had this going back and forth. Mark is the ultimate skeptic, and I'm the ultimate cheerleader of clean energy technologies. Whenever I post a story on the web, he's usually one of the first or second to make some kind of disparaging comment about why it's not going to work or what's the problem. And so for Mark Dansie to get behind a project is very significant. And to say that we're harnessing free energy from the environment, not in the flashlight technology, but in the other technology, that's very significant.
Well, it's only my opinion, Sterling, as I say, but I have been sat through, I've called in my own scientists, they have confirmed over and over again, this is real, it's repeatable, it's exciting. Where the actual energy comes from is a debate that physicists and people may have for many years, but they do acknowledge it's not coming from within the device, it is harvesting it. And the scientists, which I have to respect, to help develop this, one of the scientists said, I'm happy with the term ambience. Fine. If other people want to label it and put something else, I'm fine with that, but I have to respect their wishes. So they're kind enough to allow me to show that this is the future, it's potential. People who might be interested in applications or anything else, I can pass on details of who to contact. I'm not the contact person. This one here, this is ours, but it's going to be everybody's.
Tell us where people can get a hold of you and your company if they want to ask questions.
I'm on the road a lot lately, so best to email me initially, and then I'm happy to pass it on to the appropriate person in the company.
What email would be best?
Just Mark Dansie, MarkDansie @gmail.com.
Okay.
That gets me, but then I pass it on to the appropriate person. Like for this information, I can pass it on to people. if it's to do with, you know, somebody wants to be a distributor or a manufacturing partner in this, I can pass it on to the appropriate people in the company.
What about funding if somebody is interested in maybe jumping in with some money?
I'd pass them on to the appropriate people. This one, we're going to need some funding for tooling and just other expenses, because what started off as a $50,000 project suddenly became a $500,000 project. We are willing to peel off some. So
is that 10 times over Unity?
No,
if it starts out at 15,
that's
at 500,000?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's called, oh dear, we need to get bigger. What we actually do with this, Infinergy is spinning off a company. The person or inventor who inspired us, we're not using his technology. He gets a piece and then we get a piece, and then if somebody wants to come in and be a partner or a manufacturing partner or distributor, we work with them. We're not touting for money for this, but we do need manufacturing partners, and we would like to have distributors, you know, people who've got the ability to receive the goods and distribute in different countries. But I really brought it here as I call this a stepping stone technology, Sterling. It doesn't always have to be free energy, but can you use existing technologies and bring a paradigm?
It's a transitional technology.
It's transitional.
It gets people thinking way outside the box. It kind of moves them in. It's a bridge building technology.
It's a bridge building.
Yeah.
This is what I call the conference's breakthrough energy movement. This is a breakthrough technology, but it's still got a long way to go to its full fruition. And it's something that stopped me in my tracks, and we don't know how far it can be taken, but the only way to find out is just, you know, spend the money. But that's in the hands of another company. We've got a good relationship with them. We're working on some other technologies with them, and they were kind enough to let me bring this along and demonstrate it to the conference.
One other thing that I might mention is Mark and I may be featured hosts on a show that's upcoming, a reality show called Free Energy Quest. And we've got the domain name freeenergyquest.com, so go check it out, see if we're up on the air yet by the time you see this. Right now is November 12, 2012. Maybe by January first quarter we could be on the air, or it could be the next quarter after that. But
we get to push pies in each other's face, remember our deal?
Yep. And who would get the pie on this one, Mark?
This one here?
No, not the flashlight. This one right here.
We're starting from scratch, remember?
Oh yeah, we're starting from scratch.
Otherwise you'd be in real trouble. So we're starting from scratch. The deal is, if Sterling says this is real and I say it's not, whoever pans out in the end gets...
Right. And on most of these technologies, he says I'm wrong, and so we'll go in with I think it's right, he thinks it's wrong, and we'll test it, and if we're happy, if he's happy with the results, then I get to put the pie in his face. If it turns out the results are negative and I agree, I get the pie in the face.
No, it doesn't matter if you agree or not, you get the pie in the face.
Well, I might say, I think that there's a reason why these instruments are not getting the right... Anyway, to be continued, huh?
Yeah, to be continued, but I guess we have our public spats, but we're still on the same journey. And I've met some wonderful people at the conference, and that's pretty well it, Sterling. So I'm sorry I can't talk more about how that operates. I can only talk about the performance criteria, and if people want further information can contact the company, which I'm happy to pass on. This one, we're interested in manufacturing partners or distributors for sure, and that's pretty well it. But this isn't our business. This is something that, for us, helps us bring funding, because we want the incubator to work on our own projects, that's the Infinergy Labs, and also allow other people to bring stuff in and work with freedoms and not being constrained by conditions from VCs or government or anything else.
I'm just going to show you the name Infinergy so you can get that spelling right. Right there.
It's a cool name, actually. I didn't come up with it. It's infinite energy. So that's pretty well it. And I just thanks for your time, Sterling.
All right, thank you, Mark.
No problems.